Hey guys, it's Ricky here with DashCam Documentaries, and today we are visiting a little town called Stonehurst. Now, if you're not sure what Stonehurst is, it's not related to Stonehenge. It's its own little town within a town, and it's the highest concentration of little homes made out of river rocks. And we're going to learn the history, including the Hollywood connection, and we're going to visit these tiny little houses. And as always, you're welcome to join me. Just get in the car and buckle up. Okay, here we are in the beautiful little enclave of Stonehurst. Now, Stonehurst is actually within the city of Sun Valley, and it was started by a man by the name of Rempp. Now, Rempp was a developer, and he had the magnificent idea of creating a town that could attract Hollywood elite and people in the entertainment industry so that they can live a little bit away from Hollywood and still have a small town vibe. And he hired a local artisan and stonemason by the name of Dan Montelongo to design these homes and make them out of river rocks from the local Tahunga Wash. Now, as we drive around this community here, you're going to see lots of stones. And here's one, a little post to my right, and there are some of the homes here. Now you can see this one here is a little service garage, and this garage was actually part of his master plan. When he thought of this community, he did think of adding a service station and a garage, and he actually hoped that the red line, the red car trolley line, would stop here, but it never really did. So his dream of having trolleys come through his little town were crushed. But as we drive through, one thing he did succeed in was creating a lot of these stone houses, and they still do exist to this day, and we are gonna, of course, see them. Now, this neighborhood in Sun Valley is an HPOZ. Now, if you've watched some of my previous episodes, you know that that stands for Historic Preservation Overlay Zone. So it has been deemed a historic community, and therefore the people that live here could not modify these homes without getting permission first. So let's drive around a little more, and I'm gonna explain the history a little bit further. Okay, so when Pep, as they called him, Rempp, thought of this community, he thought of building about 90 homes, and he built them between 1923 and 1925. And Dan Montelongo, the artisan, used the stones from the local Tahunga Wash, and the developer, Rempp, actually marketed as live in Stonehurst where life is worthwhile. And he actually marketed these homes, and he sold them with a Model T in the garage. So every home actually came with a Model T parked in the driveway and an insurance policy ready to go. So that sold it to a lot of people who decided to move here. And you can see that a lot of the homes have actually been altered. So as we cruise through the neighborhood here, you might see an example like this, where the house is being changed. There's the stone still there, but unfortunately you're gonna see also a lot of stucco and alterations. Here's another one to my right that's being altered, and this would have, of course, really upset Rempp, who wanted it all to be made out of stones. And his project was successful in that it was developed, but it was not successful in that not a lot of people from Hollywood actually ended up moving here. But this area still has the highest concentration of homes utilizing this native river rock more than anywhere else in Los Angeles. So it is quite historic in that regard, and a lot of people do come here to see it. Now, in front of me is the community center, the Stonehurst Community Center, which was built in 1930, so a little bit after the development. Now, the houses here, you can call them American craftsmen, but they're of course in the stonemason vernacular style, and that's what makes them so unique and such an interesting place to visit. But you really have to drive down all the streets and look and find ones that aren't altered. And you can see a cat in front of me. Cats do like Stonehurst as well. Now, when Pep built this city or developed it, it wasn't called Sun Valley. It was actually called Roscoe. And there still is a street called Roscoe just about a mile from here. And but now this is part of Sun Valley. Now here's another great example of some of the artistry that was put into development here. I'm gonna back up to show you another house in front of me here. This one is a great example. You can see the houses did have big porches and big fireplaces. That was kind of their signature, and a big piece of land. You did get a good chunk of land with these homes, although the homes themselves were actually quite small. They were about 1,000 square feet, so not big, especially by today's standards. Back then they weren't too small, but definitely smaller than what would be considered an average house in the 1920s. Now, these houses were quite well built. You can imagine they've survived a lot of large earthquakes. There was an earthquake in 1971. The Silmar, there was one in 1986. The Whittier Narrows earthquake. There was one in 94, the Northridge quake. And these stone houses did survive quite well, and that just shows how well built they actually were. Now we're kind of heading into the outskirts of the town of Stonehurst. Now I keep referring to it as a town, but it's not. It's actually just a little enclave, you can call it, within the city of Sun Valley. But it is definitely unique and definitely has its own vibe, its own feel to it. When you drive around here, you get the sense of community. People really take pride in ownership. Now here's something, an interesting house that has a church steeple to it. It might actually be some type of church, but it's right here in the middle of a residential zone. But you can see the unique features that you can find here in this historic preservation zone. Now this street coming up here, if you can read the sign, is called Wealtha. Now that has nothing to do with the monetary and financial stability of the people that live here. Wealtha is actually, or was actually, the wife of Rempp, the developer of this area. So when he built it, he made sure that the street running right through the town of Stonehurst was named after his beautiful wife, Wealtha, and that's how we get the name of this street. And that's just another interesting part of this beautiful and historic little zone called Stonehurst, the town that Rempp thought of, dreamed of, built, and still exists today, kind of hidden here in the city of Sun Valley. And it's definitely worth a visit if you can. Just meander through the streets and think of how life must have been like in the 1920s, 1923 to 1925 when it was being built, and all the people that lived here. Now you can see it's also zoned for horses, and here are some beautiful horses in front of the service station that Rempp built. Okay, as we're gonna exit this community, I want to thank you guys for joining me today here in Stonehurst. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please like, and you can leave me a comment on what you think about these little stone houses. And I want to thank you for joining me. On our way out, I just ran into a horse, or a couple of horses, so I wanted to restart the filming here to give you guys a view of these beautiful horses. And I also forgot to tell you guys to please subscribe to my channel. Well, as always, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you guys on the next adventure.